For much of my life, I was stuck in a loop of not understanding social cues, peers and family distancing themselves as a result, and their distance meaning I had even fewer chances to learn social cues. I eventually became so under-socialized that I avoided any interaction. I knew I was going to say or do something to make things awkward, so I fully stopped talking to people. It got to a point where I stopped going to college, couldn't go to stores that didn't have self-checkout, and couldn't order food if it wasn't being delivered to me. At that point, I was sure there was no way to change how I socialized, and I thought I was just innately bad. In reality, though, I just didn't understand how to make positive change for myself yet. Now, a few years later, I've gone from saying random socially inappropriate stuff to being a total shut-in to people enjoying my company and me really looking forward to interacting. And if someone like me can do it, you can too. So I'm gonna share what helped me get here. I will say though, I've had to reorganize much of my perspective through a ton of self-reflection. Sometimes, self-reflection involves me feeling kind of bad about myself, since I have to consider what I'm doing wrong to figure out how to do things right. That can be really uncomfortable, but listen, feeling bad is only the first step. If you're only stopping at the feeling bad part, you're just performing an exercise in misery. The goal of self-reflection is understanding what mistakes we've made, taking accountability, and moving forward with newfound knowledge, but without crushing negative emotions. Those negative feelings will become less painful as you progress. Think of them as growing pains. You have to work through the initial discomfort to get to the other side. I know it's tough. I lived in self-imposed exile for years because it was tough, but that only meant that things stayed tough. Okay, here we go. Tip 1. Avoid overestimating small blunders. I always overestimate my own awkward statements and feel like my awkwardness is insanely disruptive, but I recently noticed that I never really care when someone else is awkward. I just mentally say, oh, I'll pick another topic, or this conversation's reached its natural length. I'll bring this to a close. There's no ill intent, and it's that way for the majority of people. Even if most people aren't awkward per se, that doesn't mean they're charisma wizards. They don't know how to get things back on track either. They know the cadence has been thrown off, and they may attribute that to you, but they're probably not thinking that you're the worst. The most they're probably thinking is that you're a bit of an awkward person. In fact, their main takeaway from the conversation is probably something you said earlier. They won't see you and go, ugh, they're so weird. They'll probably think, oh, that's so-and-so from that one department. They're a little awkward or shy, but they seem nice. Now, if someone does start behaving rudely after a minor awkward interaction, that's on them. You should still give them basic human respect when you run into them, but you don't need to be overly accommodating with someone who's actively denying you the same accommodations. And for future reference, basic human respect is stuff like still respecting boundaries, not being unnecessarily mean, and performing basic politeness. You don't have to act the way they do, but you also don't need to do more than that. Tip 2. Critique does not equal insult. If someone says, I wish you would do this, or I wish you wouldn't do that, they're usually not telling you that you're the worst person alive. That's your brain projecting their own insecurities onto this person's comment. They're telling you what they just said, that they wish you would or wouldn't do that particular thing. Consider their comment and ask yourself if it's something meant to be degrading or helpful. My personal way of figuring this out is considering whether they take their own advice. Does this person do the thing they're asking me to do? If not, do they do an equivalent thing that would warrant them asking me to do this? And most importantly, is this person the type to want to improve themselves through personal growth? Or are they known to be mean to others because they feel stuck and need to drag down other people to feel better about themselves? Sometimes, people are trying to be rude or edgy, and in those cases, you're allowed to dismiss cruel comments. Consistently mean people usually feel emotionally stuck, so they have to pull others below them to feel like they've made progress. They haven't developed the self-control required to truly grow, so try not to let their emotional immaturity prevent you from growing. Now, if you're hearing a suggestion from someone who makes you feel safe and uplifted, or from various people who don't know each other but have come to a similar conclusion about you, that's when you need to take what they're saying into consideration so you can potentially work on it. Tip 3. Know the difference between inconsiderate weirdness and harmless weirdness. When I was not much younger than I am now, I would often find myself in situations that involved me randomly saying something really out there and people immediately recoiling, or me monologuing about something no one else was interested in, and anytime someone tried to lead the conversation in a different direction, I'd be like, yeah, cool, and bring it back to my thing. Both of these are harmful in different ways. In the random wild comment category, I generally wasn't intending to say anything unacceptable, but I also didn't have a filter. So I'd say something crazy, people would immediately react, and I'd think, whoops, that wasn't it. Other times I'd be like 3 minutes deep into a monologue about some random thing nobody else cared about, and then spontaneously realize that the other person had the look on their face where they're trying to be polite but are also trying to figure out a way to exit the conversation. This wasn't intentional either. I love sitting there and listening to people talk about what they like, and it didn't occur to me that most people don't like that. especially not about something they're not interested in, and not with someone they're not close to. Also, I interrupted people constantly. Inevitably, people would stop talking to me, or I'd fall into backup friend territory, and I'd be wondering, why am I alone? Why doesn't anybody like me? And it's because I wasn't a considerate person. I'm getting more into specific conversation tips later in the video, so stay tuned. Now, you might feel that you intentionally have to do monologues or say random stuff to be memorable to people. This is not the case. You don't know what about you is going to stick with people, so you don't need to play up how interesting you are. I was talking to a friend, and she stopped mid-conversation and went, "Wait, you're not the one who likes those gross chalky cookies with the frosting, right?" And I was shocked that, among all the things we've discussed and experienced, she remembered that I liked Loft House cookies, which I had briefly mentioned over a year prior. It goes to show that you don't have to try overly hard to make an impression on someone. They'll remember whatever happens to stick out to them. Just say what you will, and if you click, you click. Now, you can still be quirky while being a considerate person. You just pull away from inconsiderate weirdness and move towards harmless weirdness. My monologuing and lack of a filter fall under inconsiderate weirdness. They made people feel that I was more interested in expressing what I had to say rather than hearing what they had to say. Harmless weirdness tends to be seen as more intriguing. In general, if you're kind and considerate toward people, like actively listening, they'll be a lot more willing to tolerate quirkiness. I will say though, if you're close to someone, it's generally more acceptable to dip into inconsiderate weirdness if they're okay with it. Sometimes you'll want to say something outlandish, like a really far-fetched scenario or joke. Sometimes they'll want a monologue about a new interest or work happenings. That's fine. Naturally, if you're close to someone, you'll share more parts of yourself with them. Just make sure you're both reciprocating and allowing one another the same leeway. Tip 4. Join a club or volunteer. Clubs and groups are a great way to find other people who like the same things you do. The groups I personally find the most wholesome are crafting clubs and groups that regularly volunteer in the community. I think it's because those activities involve a lot of patience and empathy respectively, both traits that make people really enjoyable to be around. Look online and check social media for local groups that'll fit your specific interests. If it's tough for you to be around people right now, look for entirely online groups. This can also be helpful if you're doing an activity that's more niche or that doesn't have a physical club near you. Even if you're not in a club, it's nice to have a productive hobby. I don't know about you, but I feel my best when I feel capable. Some of my favorite pastimes involve challenging myself and learning new things so I can create little victories for myself. You see this PNG of a sock I've used twice now? I made that sock, but it took trial and error to get there. Try not to be discouraged if you don't get something immediately. Keep looking for the piece of info that'll make everything click for you. Someone somewhere has an explanation that'll help you progress. You just need to find it. Don't be afraid to take a break though. You can always come back to it later or try something else. Tip 5. Bring a prop. Personally, it's difficult for me to get into small talk, but easier for me to get into the flow of big talk, if you will. So having a physical conversation starter removes some of the uncertainty from talking to people I don't know. This doesn't have to be aura farming and posturing. It can and should be something you actually enjoy. Whatever prop you choose should not be disruptive. You're trying to seem chill and inviting, not inconsiderate. I happen to knit in a way that doesn't produce much click-clacking, but if it did, I'd leave the knitting at home and opt for a quieter prop. If you're using a device as your prop, put it on mute. Earbuds are fine if you're not actually trying to converse with anyone, but keep in mind that having an earbuds is generally a sign that someone does not want to be interacted with. And listen, I know performative reading is a meme, but if you're genuinely interested in a book and you want to talk to people about it, then it's a good item to bring with you. Again, your prop should be something you actually enjoy. You're trying to have conversations that are engaging for both you and your conversation partner, and the easiest way to be engaged is to talk about something you're actually interested in. There will be times when you've got to make small talk without props, and here's the big secret key to talking to people. Active listening, which I mentioned briefly before. Get fully immersed in the conversation. Ask them to expand on things you're genuinely curious about. This is learning about another person just for the sake of learning about another person. Your conversation partner will be happy to be listened to, and if you're really locked in, you'll be interested in learning more about them. This is a whole person in front of you. A whole person with their own likes, dislikes, and everything else. No one's an NPC. Everyone's a main character. Everyone has some amount of depth that's initially hidden because of our limited perceptions, so make an effort to let people know that you really see them. Sometimes, you'll even meet someone who's actively listening to what you're saying and really trying to see you too, and you'll find yourself reaching a wonderfully perfect flow of give and take in your interactions. These are the kind of people you might want to form closer relationships with. Tip 6. Literally just say what you're thinking. I think most people struggle with this in some capacity. A less socially awkward version of this is when I'm sitting with someone who's drafting an email and they ask, "How should I phrase this?" And then they tell me what they're trying to say, and then I say, "Just write exactly what you just said." About 80% of the time they go, "Oh yeah." If you really, really don't know how to get a conversation going in a situation where it feels more awkward not to converse, literally just say what you're thinking. Once, I was in a situation that required me to sit in a room with a stranger for about 20 minutes. While we did introduce ourselves to each other, we'd fallen into an uncomfortable silence. I didn't know how to get a conversation going, so I just went ahead and said, "Hey, I'm a bit awkward, but I'm cool to talk if you want to talk." Me showing a bit of vulnerability made me more approachable, and we were able to have a really nice conversation for the rest of the 20 minutes. I've done that multiple times since, and it usually kicks off a nice conversation. I found this works in more serious situations too. Like, if someone drops some insanely depressing personal lore and you're not sure how to respond, you might sit there thinking, I'm trying to think of a way to respond that lets them know that I support them and I'm here to listen if they want to unpack that, but I don't know what to say. And as you're thinking that, you're actually sitting in silence, not having verbally acknowledged what the person said, and now they might feel like they've made a mistake in being vulnerable with you. In this situation, it's better to just go ahead and say, well, I support you, and I'm here to listen if you want to unpack that. They immediately know where you stand, and this opens up the conversation to continue if they want it to. Side note, sometimes people will do or say things that are socially inappropriate, but that aren't enough to warrant a call out. At those times, it's okay to drop a monotone, or sure, or some other generic, brief word or phrase that doesn't invite them to continue. You don't have to say anything rude, you're just signaling that you're not interested in continuing the interaction. As a general rule of thumb, be warm and inviting unless someone gives you a reason not to be, in which case you still treat them with basic human respect, but know that you're not obligated to give more. Tip 7. You are in control of yourself. There are things that will happen to you that will feel, and at times truly be, unfair. They might challenge your sense of self, self-esteem, and self-worth, but you have more control over how events emotionally impact you than you might think. For much of my life, it was easier for me to throw up my hands whenever I felt I ruined something, or when something bad happened. Telling myself that I was innately a failure, or that I simply deserved bad things was depressing, but it meant that I didn't have to do anything. Unconsciously, instead of my reactions being something I had control over, I thought of them as unchangeable, thinking I was just the way I was. When I finally did accept that I'm in control of my responses, it didn't feel liberating at first. I felt overwhelmed by the prospect of being fully responsible for my behavior, and I spent years fixated on past missteps. One of the best discoveries for me was that I'm not at the whims of my negative emotions. A good way I've heard to look at emotions is by viewing them as lights on a dashboard. They let you know that you need to address something. If you feel upset or anxious after a conversation or a thought you just had, you know that you need to unpack that. You can address it in the moment or tuck it away to process later if it's not a good time. Just because a thought or emotion is present doesn't mean that you need to act on it, especially if acting on it in that moment would be detrimental. You don't have to tuck them away forever, just use discretion regarding when and with whom you process them. All emotions and feelings are valid in that we each experience them for our own reasons, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all emotions and feelings are fair to ourselves or others. When interacting with ourselves or others, we need to recognize everyone's personhood and individuality so we can be as compassionate, patient, and supportive of them as we want them to be with us, and by extension, compassionate to ourselves. If we're dishonest with ourselves, make excuses, or blame other people, we're not going to grow. Now, as thanks for sticking around this long, I'm going to let you in on my 2 big personal rules to life. If you take nothing else from this video, take these with you. Rule 1, be kind to people. Everyone's trying to live just like you. Again, no one's an NPC. They're all conscious, have been shaped by their own experiences, and are observing and processing, same as you. Be considerate enough to coexist with and support others. That doesn't mean exhausting yourself to the point you give all of yourself to other people. Then you'll have nothing left for you. It means being kind to everyone. And when people reciprocate your kindness, you let them know you recognize that by continuing to respond in kind. Some of the core functions we perform in positive relationships are making people feel heard, i.e. actively listening, and just helping where you can when they need more than active listening. You don't have to tire yourself out. Just being there means a lot to people. Just remember, at minimum, give everyone basic human respect. And rule 2, impress yourself. Consider this for a moment. Right now, if everyone else in the world disappeared, who would you be? If you suddenly didn't live with, for, or against someone else, what would be left of your identity? Moving forward, without any social pressure, what could your identity become? So much of what we do as people revolves around maintaining or increasing status, like doing well at work, being liked by friends and acquaintances, and even having enough self-esteem to consider ourselves valuable. In a perfect world, we'd all understand the inherent value of people, but that's far easier said than done in a time and place where we're measured by how thin we can stretch ourselves. So, a way to remedy this is by reorienting our thoughts in a way that lets us know we're each worth it without caving to the pressure of feeling like our sole value is how much we can suffer in silence. When growing, we're trying to cultivate someone who can feel complete on their own. While it's great to have an external support system, we can each do our own mental housekeeping too, like regularly taking time to process our thoughts and emotions. Sometimes there'll be things that you don't want to, or even can't unpack with other people. Maybe they're small things that you think would come off as inconsequential, or maybe they're really big things that you don't want to share with others yet, or can't share for your own safety. Learning how to process your own thoughts and feelings without judgment is crucial for growth. The more you make a habit of understanding yourself and implementing positive change, the less frustrated you'll find yourself. At the end of the day, you're the one who has to live in your own skin. The world demands a lot from us, so reorganizing your mind in a way that makes your experience more fulfilling is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Don't give up if other people you meet don't share your goals. Stay kind, keep searching for other people who are trying to grow, and hope that your energy rubs off on people who aren't ready to grow yet. So, thanks for sticking with me. I'm going to leave off on some words from the late great August Wilson that have really stuck with me. Quote, "Confront the dark parts of yourself and work to banish them with illumination and forgiveness. Your willingness to wrestle with your demons will cause your angels to sing." Okay, thanks for hearing me. You've got this.